On today's show, I have Canada's Prince of Piano, Martin Mayer, join me, and we're going to have a wonderful conversation more about the human side of being an artist, what that means, what challenges that these artists face that we as music lovers and fans don't always see. I can't wait for you to hear all about what Martin has to share. If you enjoy this episode, please don't hesitate to leave me a comment, a review, or give us a follow on either on any platform you're checking this podcast out. But for now, let's dive straight into this amazing conversation with Martin. I hope you enjoy. Hey B-Siders, welcome to a brand new guest episode, and I'm very excited to dive into this one today. We have, shall I say this, like a bit of a global superstar here on a humble podcast today. And I can already see he's like, no, don't.
Stop it.
Stop
No,
it.
go on.
And I'm very excited because this is like a bit of a first for me because I haven't had that kind of musician on the show, and I don't think I've had this kind of I did have this kind of type of genre of music on the show before, but not in that setting. So first of all, hello Martin, welcome to my podcast. It's very lovely to have you here today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm glad I'm not the first one, maybe the second one, so I'll take it. It's all right.
Yeah, I just had to think then because I had a lovely lady on and she released an album with her singing and piano. So that's kind of like,
Okay.
oh no, not the first piano, but there was obviously singing involved, which you don't.
So I would be first piano instrumental.
Yes, that's
Okay,
for
all right.
sure.
There we go.
Here we go. We sorted that one out. Next.
Yeah.
No.
Don't need to hit that leave the meeting button.
No, please don't.
Yeah.
It would be such a shame because I know you've got
I know,
lots
right?
of lovely and interesting things to share. So let's keep on going, please.
Okay.
Okay, well, before we dive into your story and your experiences, can you maybe in a short paragraph introduce yourself a little bit to the audience and share what you feel is important that they know?
Absolutely. Yeah. So my name is Martin Mayer. I am a
Mhm.
Canadian pianist and composer. I'm now going into I'm completely dating myself here, but for anybody that is seeing this visually, you can tell, well, this guy's definitely not in his 20s. But I am now going into my 25th professional year as an international musician of neoclassical, classical, crossover, new age, contemporary, fusion. I mean, there have been so many iterations of this genre that you can imagine. Going into my 34th year of having become a piano player. My main genre of music, as I said, neoclassical, classical crossover. So if you think about that sort of lovely classical piano sound and compositions with the modern orchestra of somebody like a John Williams or a Hans Zimmer, and then you've got the driving beats of somebody like Danny Elfman or Bob James, or in certain cases David Foster. That's sort of that blend of the sound. I like to keep it modern and contemporary on the bottom of the orchestra, and that type of stuff in the middle, and some of the more modern elements of the piano, jazz, and guitars on top. My story began with a very simple aspect of playing and learning piano in the basement. Then going and playing dance gigs in my father's dance band, on weekends while I was in high school and college. And then at some point in college, I'd read a magazine, and I think it was either Keyboard Electronic Musician or something like that, and that said, if you're on the couch waiting for the record company to approach you, you're going to be an old man, with Cheerios all around your feet, and the dog looking up at you. It's like, they're not going to call. You have to do something. And I don't know why I gave that dog that voice, but when you think of dog, it has to sound like that. I don't know why. But they said, yeah, they basically said if you're looking to get signed and you want people to notice you, you have to stand up and do something that makes a difference. So, I thought to myself, what does that look like? And I started watching a whole bunch of concert specials on PBS and CBC, which
Hmm.
is Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, and I'd seen a number of them that were filmed in sort of these very exotic locales. I'm like, okay, well, I don't have the funds for that, but no, what can I pare that down to? So it's like, got
Mm.
my own compositions, can do this for
Hmm.
orchestra, can do this with band, can do this in front of a live audience. So I put it together, got all the numbers, and it went, yep, okay, this is what I need. I don't got it. Don't think mom and dad do either. I'm just going to go to the bank and ask them. So I walked into the bank and I said, hi, my name is Martin Mayer. I'm a pianist and a budding composer, and I need to make a splash in the North American concert scene in order to get signed to a record label. I'd like to get a loan. They said, sure, how much would you like? And I said, 35,000. And I can still see the woman almost choking on her coffee because, I'm 19. I'm walking in by myself, right? I have a bank account open there, and she's like, "Oh, sure." So how much are you making? I said
Hmm.
about, 350 a month, that type of thing. Do you have a plan how to pay this back? Nope. Long story short, parents co-signed for the loan. We did the concert, put it on, standing room only, 20-piece orchestra, live recording crew in tow. We filmed it as well, and then went into the studio, put it together, put it out. It got nominated for my first, what would we call that? Oh, that's what we would call it. Got nominated for my first award. And then 6 months later, this is what changed my life. So the
Hmm.
the the sort of Coles Notes version is from basement piano to international concert halls. The email that changed my life.
Hmm.
I got an email through my website of this Chinese arts agency that said, "Hey, we've listened to your music. We'd love to invite you on a 6-week, 16-city national concert tour of China. Would you like to come?" And I said, "Never been
Hmm.
anywhere except for here." And so off we went, and that was 24 years ago,
Wow.
and still going before the pandemic sort of shut business down. I just finished
Hmm.
the most recent 20-city concert tour in China in the fall of 2019. So
Wow.
that's my story of, like I said, the basement kid with the dream that says, yeah, I'm gonna do this and take a risk on myself. And then all of a sudden the international doors open up and it's like, okay, welcome.
Wow. Incredible. I mean, how did you have any hesitation when you sort of had this figure of 35,000 and you went to the bank, and did you sort of thought, oh gosh, what if this doesn't pan out? Or did you just thought, I don't care, I'm just gonna do it and see what happens next?
I think I didn't have as much hesitation as I would now. Now it's just kind
Hmm.
of like, you have that experience, right? You weather the stuff where it's just like, sir, you're a month behind on that statement, right? We've all
Hmm.
we've all been there, we've all done that.
Yeah.
But going into a bank and saying, I need $35,000, I have no idea how I'm going to pay it back, but this
Hmm.
is what I need in order to launch my career, right? My parents thankfully co-signed for the loan.
Hmm. Yeah.
I think I probably would have been a different story if they
They
hadn't.
wouldn't have. Yeah.
Um, but there's been a lot of in this genre of music. There's been a lot of sort of scenarios that present themselves where you looking back on it now, it makes you go, you sure? It's almost like
Hmm.
a sort of a reality check. And you sure you want to do this, right?
Hmm.
Like that first tour, we started rehearsing the night before 9/11, and then on the day of, I had the band coming in that night, handing back their contracts, going, "We're not going anywhere." Right? They didn't want to take a local flight, let alone fly all the way halfway across the world. And I'm going, look, we've committed to this tour. I've committed to this tour. There's a lot of people involved on this. Let's focus on the music. Focus on the
Hmm.
music. Don't think about anything else. All we're gonna do is just play for the next 2 weeks as we rehearse. We're just gonna play. Focus on the music. That's what
Hmm.
we've always been that's what people got into. They wanted to do this because they wanted to make music. They didn't care
Mm.
whether they wanted to be, whether they were going to be famous or anything like that, or whether they're going to be on a tour or a record label. We wanted to make music. So I said, focus on the music, and you let me and my manager worry about the rest of it.
Mhm.
And by the time we got started on the tour, I was already exhausted from just having to,
Wow.
bear all of that. And now looking back on it, that's that reality check-in. Is like, you sure that you want to do this? And yeah, you truck on because it's not going to be easy. Why should it be? Why would it be? Right? We
Mm.
see massive artists that go on these tours, that have all of these, these massive crews and hundreds of people that go with them, and you see the show, and it's just like, yeah, this is polished and looks wonderful, but there's all the stuff behind the scenes that happens with it.
Yeah, yeah, that's why I sort of keep saying a lot to my friends and people I talk to is, it might be nice you go for this 60-minute, 90-minute show or whatever it is, whoever it is,
Yeah,
and but you don't realize how much work goes on behind the scenes to actually make that person or that band be there at that night, at that time, performing,
yeah,
sounding like that. So
yeah.
that's always been kind of fascinating for me to just see a little bit more behind the scenes. How did this person actually be there that night?
Hmm.
And I could tell you stories about my mom and I sitting at concerts and checking out the security and trying to peek around the curtain to see who's behind there, who's running around with what earpiece. And so
Yeah.
yeah. And I think, it's for those 90 minutes or whatever it is, there's so much work going into it. So
Well,
it's,
not only is there
yeah.
so much work going into it, but there's so much that, we don't see.
Mm,
And with the pandemic, a lot of the conversations that have come out is, the mental health, that of things that people deal with, right?
mm-hmm.
Shawn
True.
Mendes walking away at the height of his career from touring because he just couldn't handle it anymore.
Mm,
And then when somebody like Celine Dion, you talking about pulling back the curtain, when somebody like her pulls back the curtain, is like, this is what was happening on those days when I said, we have to cancel the show. It's because I'm sick or I've got something going on. All of a sudden, you turn that stage 180 degrees around and you see what happens behind that curtain.
mm-hmm.
All of a sudden it's changing that conversation of people, they're disappointed about, oh, I came here from so far and spent so much money. This is a human being, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's one thing that I'm sort of grateful in the in the context of everything that we went through over the
Yeah.
past couple of years, and there's still people that are going through different things, is now there's an air of saying, hey, I've been dealing with this. I am still the artist and the person that you love, but I'm a human being, and I'm flesh and bones and nerves and everything else, and I have ailments and things that I deal with on a regular basis, just like everybody
Mm,
else does. And
mm-hmm.
for me, I would say when I think about what you asked about hesitation, I think some of those hesitations manifested years later in terms of anxiety, and
Mm,
in certain cases, really crippling anxiety to the point where you're backstage and you're just like, got the show's got to go on, the show's got to go on, and then all of a sudden it's game time
mm-hmm.
and the show goes on, and by the time you're done, it's just, you know, on the couch or on the bed, and just, yeah,
Wow.
the day's done. And
Yeah.
I don't know how to get up on the next day.
Mm. So for us who are not performing,
Mm,
who are the people who are being performed to,
yeah.
um, and I just thought of this question and there is a difference, but obviously we don't understand it. But the usual, what you probably call stage fright or the nerves before going on,
Mm,
compared to the
mhm.
anxiety, can you kind of try to describe what the difference is? Is that possible at all to describe it?
Sure. I can only describe it from me, so I'm not going
Yeah,
to pretend
sure.
for other people.
Mm,
So when I was younger and I had to do some of these recitals, I remember having that really that really sort of very intense butterflies in the stomach, almost to the point of,
Mm.
you can't eat anything, you can't have tea, you wake up in the morning nauseated and just really upset to your stomach.
Mm-hmm.
That almost feeling where your body is completely consumed with nerves, whatever sort of anxiety that you might have, that elicits that same feeling, whether it's going to the dentist or whether it's
Mm.
going for, an X-ray or something like that. That's what it was when I was younger. When, these days I don't have it as much. I don't have that, thankfully, anymore because, through breathing and meditation and experience and all that sort of stuff, I was
Yeah.
able to find a way to calm that. What I do have now, and I try to keep myself busy through it, is the 15 minutes before showtime. I just feel like I want to peel my face off.
Oh.
Because it literally is just like, okay, I'm ready. Let's go, if we start early, then we start early, but there's shows that start later. For me, what it is I try to keep myself busy, literally to the point where I have a stage manager that is coming back and saying 3 minutes, and it's literally I walk from the dressing room to behind the curtain, cue the musicians, and it's go. It's not pacing back and forth, but the feeling is the sweaty palms, the sort of heart racing, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's that feeling of like, it's and then when the music starts, it's like, okay, you hear it in ears, which are basically, custom fitted earphones for musicians, that where you don't hear anything else except for what we have in the mix. And so then when I walk on the stage, it's like, okay, a big breath and the big smile, and it's like, okay, I'm here and I'm doing the thing that I love. And 3 songs in, those nerves disappear. And
Mm.
then they reappear when you have to get up and you have to talk to the audience, because it's a
Oh,
different audience every night,
yeah.
and you don't know, who you're going to connect with. And so you're sort of scanning the audience and looking to see, it's like, okay, I'm going to focus on this one person that is smiling, or this person that is excited and clapping along, and
Mm-hmm.
that type of thing. And so that goes through that process for the first half, and then we have the intermission,
Mm-hmm.
and then coming back, even though I've already been there and they've seen me and they're here for me, that feeling happens again. It's not as intense as it
Mm-hmm.
is
Oh
when
no.
you first come out, but it's that one of my great friends who's in broadcasting. I asked many years ago, I said, I always get nervous anytime that I do interviews or anytime that I go on podcasts, present company excluded today, which I like because, and I want to be careful in saying this, because he said, you're nervous because you care. But if there are times when you're nervous, but you don't feel it, you still care, but you've allowed your body to say, hey, I'm just going to roll with what this is. I'm going to be myself, and I'm going to feel comfortable in the situation. And that is a
Mm.
testament to you as a host, in how we had a conversation before we did this. We had a conversation before we pressed record. You have a certain natural way of welcoming the guest. That's not always the case when, you're doing something on live TV where the person is very chatty before you go, on, and then they're all of a sudden it's their actual persona, their TV persona comes on.
Mm. Okay.
But at the same time, as you're talking to them, they're looking somewhere else. They're looking at the person that is giving them the time, of how much
Mm-hmm.
time is left, and that type of thing. So I am comfortable here. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not always comfortable, right?
Mm. Okay.
Um, Being on stage when things don't feel right, or you don't feel right or comfortable in your body, that is probably the equivalent of anybody going to work or into any sort of an environment where you have to be on, despite whatever you're feeling physically and whatever you're dealing with mentally. So
Mm.
whatever may have happened, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's very different when, you're at work where you're not in front of an audience that is watching how you are, how you interact with musicians, how musicians interact with you. At the end of the day, it all comes back to me, right? They're seeing a Martin Mayer show. They're seeing Martin Mayer and his orchestra, and they're seeing Martin Mayer by himself or whatever, right? It's not the Rolling Hills of Ovaltine. The as a name of a band, I think that's a great name. The
That sounds
Rolling Hills
really
of Ovaltine. We give you a complimentary chocolate, in the beginning and intermission to
to
keep you
soften you up.
energized, right? But I mean, when somebody goes and sees any sort of a band that whose name isn't associated with one single person, one person can sort of hang back and say, "Hey, I'm not feeling too great today," right?
Yes,
Um,
true.
they can sort of do that. The drummer, the bass player, they can sort of go and like, "Yeah, I'm gonna do my thing,
Hmm.
but I'm gonna do it safely for me." Everything that comes from the stage comes from me. Everything that goes in terms of the energy to the audience comes from me. Anything that goes as inspiration energy to the other musicians comes from me. And
Yeah, that's
so to
huge.
be what you have to do in that case is, as you talked about the curtain, right? This is behind the curtain. Ugh, I'm tired today. I don't feel great. This is in front of the curtain. Hey, everybody, it's really great to be here. Brackets, silently, I'm suffering, right? I'm dealing
Mm-hmm.
with a mental health crisis, and I've used all my techniques and I used my toolbox to do it, but the show goes on. So,
Yeah.
what does that feel like, or what can that feel like? Whatever your worst day feels like,
Hmm.
doing that, getting up and doing a speech or a talk in front of, a presentation or coworkers or management or something like that, or going to a social event where you are required to be there, not feeling at your best.
Mm. Yeah.
The difference is though, and you said yes, it's very different. What is also different and beneficial too is that I have since discovered tools that I can use on stage and things that I can grab from the audience to
Ooh.
help me feel more whole.
Hmm.
So if I see somebody and they're excited, I pull that energy in.
Yeah.
When I see somebody that is up and dancing and having a great time with the music, I pull that energy in. If I
Mm.
put out the
Yeah.
energy to the audience, they're giving it back. If I put that energy to my band, they give it back. If I say to the people that I'm playing with, hey, um, rough day today, I need you guys to feed me energy, you know, easy enough to do.
Yeah.
And that's just part of the game. That's just part of the
Mm.
job. And yeah,
Yeah. But I do think it's good we talk about this because I think for so long, we as the audience or fans or followers or who whatever we're gonna call us
yeah.
ourselves, like you said earlier on, we probably forgot that it's actually human beings standing up there.
Mm,
And I do remember, I don't know why I thought about that, but I remember watching a video, a VHS tape, years and years ago, shows my age, um,
I
from
remember those. My first concert was filmed on VHS. Well, it wasn't filmed on VHS, but it was output on VHS, and I still have it here.
excellent. I
After
still
you.
have, yeah, I still have boxes of VHS somewhere in my moving boxes, but it was one of those, when the bands release all these videos and everything. And I remember watching a Bon
Mm,
Jovi tape when they were touring. I can't remember which one it was, which one, Slippery When Wet or whatever. And they all looked knackered. And later on, I read that they said, we've been touring for nearly a whole year and had a show every day almost for a whole
yeah.
year. Back then, it didn't sink in. Now I'm thinking, how are these guys still standing? You
Hmm.
know? So now I think, I don't know if you've noticed that, but we seem to see more and more world tours, but they're not really like in the traditional sense.
Mm,
If they
hmm.
say a world tour, it might be four cities in Europe, 12 in the US, and maybe some in Asia somewhere. That's a
Yeah.
world tour now. And I
Yeah.
think that probably is because these artists say, no, I can't push myself anymore. If I do,
Mm,
I'm done. So I think that's something that I've noticed a lot lately. I don't know if that's something you, if that's in your area, like in your sort of niche where you're at, if that's something that's changed a lot, or do you guys have a bit more of an input saying, no, I don't want to do like 5 shows a week. I just want to do three because it's just gonna almost kill me if I do five.
Well, I mean, there's a certain amount of, I mean, it depends on who you are and how you work. If you
Yeah.
work with a record label and that type of top tier artists, you're talking about Bon Jovi and those types of artists, those are artists that have been around a long time that go, hey, no, this doesn't work, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the people that have worked with them by this stage of the game should know that this is what the artist can do and this is what the artist can't do.
Right.
We talked briefly about Shawn Mendes. You talk about a world tour. This was a guy that was supposed to go on 88 dates within, I think, 14 months, right? And we're talking about a massive setup, 40,000 seat
Mm.
arenas and that type of thing. He did 3 shows in the States and he did 3 in Canada, and he said, I can't. And they went and they said, yeah, he's going to take time off for 3 weeks and then he's going to come back. And I, as a person that has dealt with the ups and downs of what the music industry brings and gives you, whether you like it or not, I looked at that and said, there's absolutely nothing that they can do within a span of 3 weeks to get this guy into a better position
Mm-hmm.
than, I mean, these are multi-million dollar tours, right?
Yeah.
The
Mm-hmm.
insurance on this is more money than any of us can fathom, right? These are hundreds and hundreds of people that are working behind the scenes to
Yeah.
to do the rigging, to set up the lights, to do everything like that. Um, when you get to a certain point, yes, you can have that conversation, but there'll still be, like my last tour that I did before COVID was in China. I did 20 cities in 30 days.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a lot.
And yeah, it is. And I
Yeah.
remember getting the schedule and I went, okay, so is this just a tour, or are we doing master classes where I visit with students at the universities and the colleges and the conservatories and all that sort of stuff in between?
Mm-hmm.
And they said, well, that's coming separately. And I said, it has to be one or the other
Mm-hmm.
because I can't do both. There was a stretch in there where we literally did 11 dates back to back with no stop. One city, you play the night, you wake up in the morning, you go either on the plane or the train, and next city, set up,
Oh,
do the
wow.
sound check, you do the show, you have dinner after the show, you go to the hotel, you sleep, you wake up the next morning, and you do that 10 days in a row. Different city,
Mm,
different place, same show, same
crazy.
guy, right? 5 days in, all of a sudden I start feeling a tickle in my throat. Thankfully, I'm not a singer. You couldn't pay me enough to sing. I don't think anybody would want to hear me sing. Just
Okay.
because I can speak well and
Yeah.
enunciate doesn't mean that I can, belt out. We'll leave that for the true professionals.
Yes, we shall.
Five nights in, I'm like, okay, I need a cup of tea beside the piano just to keep myself warm because, and that's the thing that you look at is that if you look at any sort of live in concert special, look at anything that you've seen where people have some kind of special bucket where, they have whatever their favorite beverage is that they have on ice, or they have a little monitor on the side of the piano or whatever that shows the lyrics because they've sung them 1,000 times, but because they have a massive catalog of music, they don't remember every single word and they don't need it for every single song, but
Yeah.
just to glance over and be like, oh yeah, right, that's what the chord is.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's all these little things, and I'm completely finding myself on a tangent now
About your
without
cup of tea.
without
We were talking about your cup of tea and you're having a bit of a
the cup of
throat.
tea and back me up into, oh right, we talked
Not
about
feeling
the
so well on the
not
fifth
feeling so
day.
well and the these types of tours. I mean, it takes a toll.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a huge toll on the body
Mm.
where I think after the last tour, I think I probably slept easily um, you know, for the first 10 days after, because not only is it a different city, it's a different hotel, it's a different bed, it's not your comforts, it's not
Mm-hmm.
your food, it's the best food in the world, and you get to see amazing things and you get to be a rock star and whatnot. But then you come
Mm-hmm.
home and
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden it's like the pressure is off,
Yeah.
right? It's like coming home from work after a marathon week. You're just like, the weekend's here, turn off all the electronics, I'm just going to bed.
Yeah.
And
You're
that's
gonna go,
that's
whew.
that's what it becomes,
Yeah.
right? But when
Mm.
you have so many of those, and here's the thing next time that you're seeing your favorite artist, whether it's live in concert or whether it's something that is filmed, look at the energy that person is expelling. Look at the energy that person is expelling night after night after night. And so what you've got when we talked about, the amount of sugar that I like in my tea earlier,
Yep.
you have the ride up, right?
Yep.
We got all the adrenaline and everything like that. Then you have to have the crash that comes down. And you have that
Mm-hmm.
over every single night. And by the time you're done, all of a sudden your body's crashing, you get sick, stuff starts to feel wonky and funny and all
Mm-hmm.
this sort of stuff. Um, a very simple comparison is you look at some of the stuff that Billy Joel was doing around the piano in the late 80s and 90s, where he was, jumping up on the piano and doing somersaults and all this sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And now you see his live at Madison Square Garden, 150th show celebration special. And the guy's basically just sitting at the piano singing the song. He's barely moving,
Mm-hmm.
but he's found what is comfortable for him. He's still entertaining the audience, but he's not using as much energy anymore because, and I know this now for myself, I always expel way more energy than I should. And at the start of the tour, I start to feel it about day 5, and it's like, okay, right? Yeah, pull back a bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't need to be as much.
Mm. That's I mean, we're not all artists and we don't perform every night, but I think we can probably adapt that to our own life because there will be phases or situations where you feel like I just have to push and give more energy than I have instead of
Mm,
finding ways to kind of regulate that a little bit and
yeah.
not like, I don't know, after a month completely crash and burn because a lot of people have burnout these days, unfortunately. And, you know, we can probably take some some advice, some inspiration from people like yourself who really are in these high pressure, energetic environments and learn a thing or two, I reckon. So these conversations are really
Mm,
great for two things, I believe. One, you as an artist are able to speak out about it and make us, the audience, understand that if I might look a bit off, I might not actually be feeling my best. Nothing to do with you as the audience. It's
yeah.
just I'm under a lot of pressure and I want to do my best, but I might not be able to, even
Yeah.
though I want to. And for us to sort of learn about, maybe I can adapt that in my own life instead of
Mm.
going like this all the time, maybe just have that. So that's, I know our conversation has taken a completely different turn than we intended, but I feel it's been so good. So good.
Oh,
So
absolutely. I
thank you
think,
for that.
the what I would say, just sort of to wrap this part up, is you
Mm-hmm.
talk about burnout.
Mm-hmm.
There is burnout in every industry.
Mm. Oh yeah,
The
absolutely.
difference a lot of the times has been, until people, the big artist said, I can't, and here's why, right? John Bon Jovi talked about having surgery on his vocal cords, and that they haven't fully come back,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's not stuff that you lightly put out there, right? The pianist Lang Lang injured his left arm, practicing one of the concertos for left hand, and had to take a year off. People don't say that lightly because we live in an industry and we work in an industry where, in comparison to something like sports, where you have a pro golf player that gets into a terrible car accident and, they've got a broken leg and whatever, and this type of thing. They need to be in surgery and physio, this type of thing. They come back and everybody's like, yeah, they made it. They made it. Somebody like Lang Lang takes a year off and is working with the physiotherapist and all that sort of stuff. And they go slow. And so he goes and instead of playing by himself, he brings his protege with him to play the left hand and he plays the right hand. And all of a sudden, what you hear and what you read is like, Lang Lang's back, but ooh, is he ever going to play the same again? Where is that thought of there's courage to get back up on the stage, right? You talk about people having burnout. When people get burned out, you can take a vacation. If you have an 80 city tour, unless you're in a position where you can say to the insurance company, we're canceling, pay it out. We're going to deal with this later, right? You get the burnout, you work through the burnout.
Wow.
That's what it is. And where it takes the toll is here in the body and in the mind.
Yeah. Oh, I love this conversation. I'm so glad this has happened because I think, yeah, it just needed to be said and talked about for sure. I don't know why, but for some reason it has been on my mind for a while, and I don't know why it came up here, but it obviously had to be. So I'm glad we talked about it.
Me too. And the funny thing is that I can see my manager later watching the video version of this going on. You're not supposed to drink tea while you're on a podcast. And I'm like, I'm talking. I need to make sure that my mouth and everything is warm. I'm sure the audience will understand that as a casual conversation, right? But we live in a society where you look at anything on Instagram and it's filtered. You look at anything as an artist CD cover and it is photoshopped and you see stuff that is so perfected to the point of this is the bubble that we live in. Well, Martin's taking a drink of his tea. Well, he's on a podcast. Well, that's rude. No, Martin is a human being that needs to nourish himself, right?
Yes.
Needs to make sure that he sounds like he's talking about what he knows that he's talking about. And part of that has to do with comfort. Biggest tip to the audience, whether you are a human being, whether you are an artist, whether you are both, I was going to say, or neither, but I'm pretty sure that there's no aliens listening. We are human beings. We are human beings that are living tissue, living cells, living nerves. We need to treat ourselves as that, not something that is just a finished product somewhere else. And that is the difference of these conversations that are coming out now. Celine Dion, John Bon Jovi, Shawn Mendes, other people that are saying, I am a human being. See me that way. Yeah. Because the pop and the gloss that you see, the person on the cover of that magazine is not the person on the cover of that magazine.
Yeah. Oops. Yeah. True. And the thing is, on the B side, we're casual, we're cozy. So there's a cup of teas are always involved. Or any kind of other warm beverage or cold beverage on a hot day. It doesn't matter. So that's fine. We're very comfortable over here.
Excellent. We are too.
Yes. Now, God, we could probably talk for another half an hour about so many things, about your life, about your experiences. I know there's so much we could touch on, but
I have as much time as you'd like, and I'm going to share as much as you want. And after you, go for it. Just ask away.
I've just prepared a few questions, and I'm going to try something new here, which I haven't done before, but I'm just going to fire a few questions at you, and if you will be happy to answer them, or you can say next if you don't want to. They're not super like difficult or,
it's not math or algebra or anything like that, is it?
No,
good.
No.
I was a terrible math student, which is funny because musicians know at least how to count to 4, right?
Yeah, well,
1, 2, 3, 4. Done.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we won't go past 4, I promise.
Excellent.
But it goes a little bit into the whole your story and everything. So hopefully we can get some of that juiciness out of it. So here we go. First question for you is, music can transport us to different moments in life, which, we
Yeah.
both agree with. Now, can you share a memory where a piece of music that you played or that you've composed helped you process, overcome a personal challenge?
Oh, wow. Okay. Wow. That's a really good question. And I have the perfect answer for that. So when I think back on that first tour, part of um, what I sort of dealt with in terms of not having the energy for the tour because I was dealing with 2 weeks of make sure the band is okay, make sure the promoters and everything know that everything is fine.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't taking care of me. I wasn't eating right. I wasn't sleeping right. I was just not taking care of myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we got on the tour, there would be times where we would finish sound check and I'd be sitting behind this beautiful 9 foot Yamaha grand piano and, you know, the crew's gone for lunch and the band's gone for lunch. And I'm like, I'm just gonna sit here and play, right?
Mm-hmm.
Darkened stage, or they would just leave the spotlight on. I'm like, I'm just gonna play here for a while, right? And one of the things that I found was that doing that allowed me to get out some of the feelings that I had that I felt I couldn't express verbally. Because the reason that I'm an instrumental musician and composer is because I like to say, this is what my story is in music. And when I tell you this is what the name of the song is, I want you to have your own interpretation of what that song is, as
Mm.
opposed to the lyrics saying, I went onto the fields these days and I don't know,
Yeah.
however that else goes, right?
Yeah.
When you have lyrics, it tells a very concrete story. So in one of these nights, I was reminded of how much my mother had supported my music career. And I was missing her terribly because it was my first time, I was 19, first time away from home, first time away internationally on this massive tour. And I started sort of playing around with this melody idea, and it was a song that I called "Heart of an Angel" because I always felt that she had more heart to give the world than the world was able to receive.
Mm-hmm.
And when I came back, I wrote the song and I recorded and I put it on my next album. And sadly, we lost her in 2016 due to a terrible illness for which there was nothing, no surgery, no treatments, no medications, or nothing
Mm-hmm.
like that. And when you watch somebody like that slip away from you, it is almost harder than that sort of instant they're gone.
Mm-hmm.
When we fast forward a couple of years, I was working during the pandemic to say, okay, so how can I put out music that is going to inspire people and help people sort of move forward in this difficult time? And I decided to go back to that tune. And
Mm-hmm.
she was a fan of an incredible American violinist by the name of Charlie Bisharat. Huge fan of his for many years. And I thought to myself, I haven't completely dealt with this grief. I've always put it out of my mind as mom is just on vacation and,
Mm-hmm.
he's not communicating or whatnot. I hadn't dealt with it in the longest time. So what I decided to do was I was going to re-record the song and I was going to have Charlie play the violin part that I had written for it. Putting that together and putting that out as a special song for Mother's Day to celebrate my mom and what she had done for me, the life that she had given me, the way that she had supported my music, allowed
Mm-hmm.
me to express and heal from that loss in a positive way, because it was a way to pay tribute to her. It was a way to work with an incredible musician that she was a fan of and that I was a fan of. And it was a healing moment for me in a way that is still so cathartic, because every single time that I hear it, now instead of being sad that she's gone, I'm relishing the memories that I have. Because there was a beautiful line from this show called Yellowstone that Kevin Costner's in. One of the characters had died there, and they said, you can either grieve for them or focus on the good times and the memories that you had with that person, your heart and your brain doesn't have room for both. And so in that case, my music allowed me to focus on these are the memories, these are the good things, focusing on the good as opposed to the fact that she's gone.
Mm. Oh, beautiful. My introvert's heart feels nice and warm now. Oh, beautiful answer. Thank you. Um, I'm going to just pick one more question before we're going to wrap it up.
All right.
And this one is, you've toured globally, like for really quite long times, which we talked about earlier on.
I had hair when I started, and I don't now have any. So that might be an indicator of the toll that
Yeah,
this is genetics, sadly, but go
genetics,
on.
okay. I'm wondering what your one message about the power of music is that you hope every one of your audience members takes away from your performances.
Music can inspire you in amazing ways. I was inspired by the music accompanist when I was in grade 3. I was inspired by listening to her play, and I said to her after the class, "Can I have the sheet music for this song?" And she said, "I can't give it to you because of copyright." And later that week, she handed me an envelope and she said, "You didn't get this from me." And I opened it up, and it was the piece of music that I had asked for. And it was that allowed me to go and be enamored with, I want to learn piano.
Mm-hmm.
And a number of years ago, when I published my first piece of piano sheet music, she was the first one that I sent it to, because it was
Oh.
that whole, the full circle thing.
Mm-hmm.
Music can inspire you to want to be artistic. Music can also inspire, and just like we talked about, music healing me, it can
Mm-hmm.
heal others. During the pandemic, just like many artists, I did a number of those, live Zoom concerts or live concerts on Facebook. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember the next day going shopping for groceries, and one of the ladies that had seen the concert started running up to me, and then all of a sudden stopped and went, "I'm wearing a mask. I know I'm supposed to social distance, but please hear me. I had the most terrible day yesterday. My brother passed away, and I was trying to find some sort of solace in the world, and I came across your Facebook concert, and your music gave me the peace and comfort that I needed." And
It's incredible. I'm
I'm
teary, to be honest.
I know I can never share that story without choking up about it, because
Mm.
um I mean, listen, when I started in music, my focus was always this: music first,
Mm-hmm.
the art first, finance, and everything is always second. I
Mm-hmm.
always look at a project from, what is the artistic side? What is the benefit to the audience? If
Mm-hmm.
I make an impact just with one person, if I
Mm-hmm.
can just reach one person, it doesn't matter how many streams I get on whatever streaming platform. It doesn't matter how many views my videos get on YouTube, or how many people buy my music, or whatever those sort of mathematical equations are, or whatever. There
Mm.
is somewhere somebody that can be touched, that can be healed, that can be encouraged, that can be inspired
Mm.
by anything,
Mm-hmm.
music, a conversation,
Yeah.
um, anything like that. And what I would say to your audience, and I always like to say this, is that if anybody wants to reach out to me to have this kind of conversation, or ask me anything relating to music or inspiration, all that sort of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
martinmayer.com is where you can find me. I answer all of my messages. I answer all of this stuff on Facebook and Instagram and whatnot, because these types of conversations are ones that people had with me when I was younger, not necessarily
Mm.
to the same degree.
Yeah.
And I'm now consider myself very lucky to have, um, you know people in the industry that I can just call and say, "Hey, this doesn't work anymore. This used to be the business model, but now it's not.
Mm-hmm.
What is the new business model?" Well, it's the
Yeah.
same one
Yeah.
that we all don't like right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, Music can inspire, music can heal,
Mm-hmm.
music is an international language that
Yeah.
doesn't need to have any sort of translation.
Oh God,
You and I can
yes.
have a conversation just with music
Mm-hmm.
without even saying a word. And
Yes.
that is what I love about music.
Yeah. Oh, I think we're going to stop right now.
Well, I was just going to ask the questions that you have left. Are any of them sort of rapid fire? Maybe I can do like
No.
15 seconds, like zinger, just like
Well, we can
run them
try.
through, and I can,
Yeah,
yeah.
really like in like a couple of sentences. We can try, see if it works, and we'll go from there.
We'll have the producer put 15 seconds on the clock, please.
Yes, please.
Ding.
Yep, yep. The imaginary producer. Okay, here comes the first one.
Okay.
It sort of goes a little bit into the same thing, but we'll see how it goes. All right, so you've played in countries around the world, from China to the Czech Republic. How has connecting with diverse audiences shaped your perspective at the universal language of music? And I feel like you've already answered that, but go ahead.
Music crosses all boundaries.
Exactly.
It's an international language.
It is. There you go. One sentence. Yay. One tick. Uh, okay. Right. Well, I'm not going to ask this one, and I do feel I kind of know the answer maybe. But anyway, so do you have a favorite piece of music that helps you feel grounded when life gets overwhelming?
Yes, Heart of an Angel, written for my mom.
Beautiful.
Heart of an
Your
Angel.
mum
Yeah.
sounds like a really lovely lady, I have to say. If you write songs for her, she must have been an
Yeah,
incredible human being.
incredible human being that storied history on her own. I mean, when I was born, she was a prominent entertainment journalist in Prague, and
Oh,
had a
interesting.
chance to cover the various jazz festivals. So interviewing Duke Ellington, Ella Fitzgerald,
Oh, wow.
Louis Armstrong. There is a picture that I need to get printed. It is a picture of Duke Ellington performing at the jazz festival in Prague. I think it's either 1967 or 1969, and it is the very same one that my mom covered. And Duke
Okay.
and I share the same birthday, April
Oh,
29th.
there you
So there's
go.
something that you see stuff like that and it just kind of gives you the wow, this is really cool, right? My mom interviewed this guy and my
Yeah.
I'm a piano player and he's a piano player and we have the same birthday and that type of thing. And it's
What's
just
the,
kind of like,
it's like, yeah,
okay,
all right, what's going on here?
yeah.
What's the meaning behind it? Go
Right?
down a rabbit hole.
Yep.
All right, and here's the last one for you. I know that you've been involved in great causes like the Canadian Cancer Society and Music Counts. I'm curious to find out if you must have witnessed the healing power of music through these collaborations. Can you share a story if you have one about that? If you do?
Oh, um,
Oops, got you thinking then.
yeah. The Canadian Cancer Society, that one was interesting because that was done in memory of a dear friend of ours
Hmm.
who was a very well-known star in the Czech Republic by his own. His name was Karel Černoch, and he was a massive singer. He played Jean Valjean as the lead in Les Mis and those types of productions in the Czech Republic for years. He and I recorded a song as a duet, and it was never released. We didn't get a chance to release it because he was diagnosed with cancer about a year later, and then he passed a couple of years after that. And it was just one of those things of it was heartbreaking to have this recorded and not really being able to do anything with it. And I thought to myself, well, what about if I, approach the Canadian Cancer Society and say, I want to put this out, and we're gonna take 100% of the proceeds from it and donate it,
Hmm.
so that people across Canada that had seen him in concert, both in Czech Republic when they lived there and when he came here, that were fans of his music, could not only get this song, but could also put something that was as a memory to him. And
Hmm.
so that was something that was wonderful to do, and the impact of that even just handing in that check was powerful enough. But then to get a letter from his wife
Okay.
and daughter that, I had told them about it by email, but they were so inundated with well, I mean, when you have somebody like that and that passes away, public funeral and you've got security and that type of thing, there was just no way of getting through.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember getting a handwritten letter from his wife, and she said, "This is the most beautiful gift that you could have given our family. We didn't even know that this was happening until we opened up our mail and looked at it. And I literally sat there." She wrote, "I literally sat here in tears looking at this beautiful piece of music that you two had created together, and how wonderful for you to share it in such a way that, like anybody could have released and said, I'm going to make, millions on this because this person is now gone and this is a rare
Mm-hmm.
thing. And you decided to do this. Like, I'm doing this as a memory and in memory of my friend and mentor.
Mm-hmm.
And
Beautiful.
not only is it benefiting the Canadian Cancer Society, it had a huge impact. So there again is that whole thing of like, right?
Healing. Yeah.
Music can touch and can heal.
Mm-hmm.
And music counts. That one was very simple. They look for CDs, for artists to donate CDs that they put into a library, into hospitals, into care homes and whatnot for people to listen to.
Mm-hmm.
If that's where you are, that's where you need it the most, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's For me, that's just uh that's who I am.
Oh, wonderful. Oh God, I don't know what to say. I'm sort of kind of, yeah. It's just, yeah, like you said, music is just so powerful in so many different ways.
One thing that I like to say to you is, I've been a guest on a number of podcasts, and I've
Hmm.
enjoyed all of them. This has been a very different type of conversation, though, and I'm so glad that we had it, because there's so much of this type of sharing and this type of conversation that I feel needs to happen more often. Oftentimes it's, what are you working on, and what's the thing here, and what about that, and all that sort of stuff. It's when you have this conversation that is almost, um, like a backstage access, right?
Hmm.
Where it doesn't have that filter of, these aren't pre-screened questions. I mean, yeah, they are in terms of topic and whatnot,
Yeah.
but there isn't anything that you've asked that I thought of that would have been the, yeah, no, next question.
Mm.
Um,
Mm. Good.
it's just so welcome to have, right? To
Mm.
have these types of open artist conversations, because there are things that you as a host and that the audience don't always know. And it's
Yeah.
those stories that are interesting when they're happening, as they're happening, or
Hmm.
when you can share them like this. So thank you for giving me
Oh,
this opportunity.
oh, thank you for being so open and sharing what you have. Just for me personally, I'm like a sponge. I love hearing this. I love hearing the human side behind the artists. And I'm glad I can kind of contribute in my own little way to hopefully, let people know that there's a human being behind it and there's a story behind it and there's not always happy. It can be sad, it can be hopeful. So let's talk about it,
Yeah.
because I hate this whole, like you said earlier on, this social media thing where everything's perfect and everyone has this perfect life. I know personally, life is not perfect. You will have
Mm.
phases in life where it's just bad. And sometimes you just want to rock in a corner. But music has been the one thing that always has kept me going and kind of kept me alive sometimes. So, and that's thanks to people like yourself who do the art, who create, who put it out there. So, in a way, I guess this is my kind of thank you. Um,
You're
you
welcome.
know.
And thank you.
Oh God, I'm gonna have a wonderful day now.
That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about.
Exactly. Well, thank you, Martin, so much. God, this was such a beautiful conversation. I'm kind of on cloud now, so I hope everyone who's listening or watching this feels the same. Please let us know. Send us a message, like Martin said. Our emails and DMs are open. Please do so. Leave a comment, whatever. We really want to know what you guys are thinking. And yes, I think we've had a wonderful long conversation, and now it's time for me to have a cup of tea as well. So I'm going to put the kettle on. And I'm going to say thanks so much again, Martin. I hope everything goes well for you. Please keep in touch and let us know how things are going for you. Thanks, B-Siders, for tuning in, and I'll be back in your earbuds very soon again. Until then, Martin, anything else you want to say before I close off? All done?
All good. Thank you for having me. Thank you to the
Excellent.
listeners out there for enduring all of my stories.
Oh, that's harsh. I don't think it is enduring. All right, sending you much love, music and love as always. Until next time, B-Siders, take care. Bye.